going on, everybody? Happy Monday. Welcome to Wholesale Hotline pre-show. My name is Bryce, and in this 30 minutes, we break down all things driving for dollars. So I thought in this, 30 minutes, special guest RJ Bates, he's actually going to be going live at 5 o'clock. But what I wanted to talk about is driving for dollars virtually. I think that's going to go hand in hand with tonight's episode. So in this 30 minutes, what we're going to do is we're going to break down driving for dollars, kind of what the first step should be, the second, third step, how to find these distressed properties, what to look for. And then if we do have some time, we're going to hop on the power dialer and we're going to cold call some of the leads that we actually got for today. So let's hop into this, but make sure if you guys are just starting out, ask your questions in the comment section. That way I can help you guys. 80% of all people that get started in this business, I sound like a broken record always saying this, but 80% of all people that get started in this business get their first deal from driving for dollars. So I think that's what we're going to cover today. I'm going to show you guys how to do this virtually. A lot of people, when they're driving for dollars, when they're in a tough market like New York, California, you guys can do this virtually all from your business. And Kip Steffens right here on the screen says, RJ Bates, who is the special guest tonight, did the 50-50 challenge or the 50-50-50 challenge where he actually did 50 deals in 50 states in 50 days. So huge amount of value is going to be dropped here on this live at about 5 o'clock. But in the meantime, I'm going to help you guys as best as I can to help you guys get your first deal as well. So make sure you guys, if you guys have any questions, you're dropping those in the comment section. Glenn just locked up a $21,000 wholesale deal today. Both sides signed and ready. That is awesome, Glenn. Congratulations. That is huge. That's going to be life-changing, not just life-changing money, but life-changing momentum moving forward. Awesome. Okay, let's see. So Daniel says, what kind of leads are you making? What type of niches? I'm looking and spending the $1,000 to build another list. So Daniel, we do driving for dollars. The driving for dollars list, it's custom, it's niche. No one else has access to it. And that's why we're generating so many leads from this one list. So I would honestly say, save that $1,000. The BatchDriven app, it's a way for you to build this list. The base plan is just $49. So you can actually make your list if you're doing it physically, or you can do it virtually. But we've noticed that the competition levels are going to be extremely low, just because no other investor, no other wholesaler is actually driving down the same road as you. And that's why we love driving for dollars, right? If you're just getting started, maybe you don't know how to negotiate with sellers, this is going to be a great way for you to kind of learn and then build your way up with the momentum carrying forward. Okay, Ken says, Bryce, I have a dilemma. I am in one of my virtual markets driving for dollars, but where I am, I have horrible Wi-Fi. So Ken, that is a huge dilemma. If you're driving for dollars virtually, you do need to have some stable Wi-Fi. So I would just say try to upgrade your Wi-Fi the best that you can. Let me answer a few more questions, and then we're going to drive for dollars from step 1 to step 10. Rich, what's going on, man? Appreciate you. Okay, copy. I've been driving for dollars in the current market, bro. I've been noting down a lot of the houses that are boarded up, so I just need to skip tracing them, but it's solid intel, bro. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it, man. A lot of the leads that we're generating are going to be absentee owner, and a lot of those actually are great for creative finance. So if you're looking to build your creative finance folder, then driving for dollars is going to be a great way for you to do that as well. Okay, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to drive for dollars virtually. Today, we actually added 41 properties. I did it physically here in Phoenix, Arizona. So I try to hit 50 every single day. So I am short. And that's the cool thing about this app is you can do it physically and you can also do it virtually. So I'm short 9. Now I'm going to get 9 properties today on this live in this 30 minutes. That way I can show you guys kind of what to look for, where to start, and etc. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show you guys kind of step number 1. Okay, so when you log into the app, this is going to be, the aerial view. Let me exit ad out. So this is going to be the aerial view. Okay, this is going to be, step number one is you're going to talk to your cash buyers. You're going to figure out what areas, what zip codes, what neighborhoods that you need to start driving for dollars in. And the way I would phrase that conversation is, hey, I'm going to start driving for dollars and generating leads. Where are you buying? Okay, you ask that question, and those cash buyers, they're going to tell you the exact zip codes, the exact counties. They're going to give you even lists of neighborhoods that you can start driving for dollars in. Okay, so after I have a zip code or a general idea of where I need to start driving for dollars, this is in West Phoenix, guys. Just so if you're in Phoenix, this is kind of where I'm driving for dollars right now. But one thing that we're going to do is we're going to double check that the cash buyer is, gave you a list of areas that are a non-HOA neighborhood. Okay, this just allows us to quickly identify distressed properties. We don't want to be driving for dollars in a neighborhood that's HOA. Okay, they typically take care of their houses. There's not really pain that you can see from the physical standpoint. So what we're going to do is we're going to find a non-HOA neighborhood. Okay, and there's a few factors that you guys should be looking for. So let me zoom in just a little bit more. So a few things that we're going to look for before I actually go out and drive for dollars physically is I'm going to try to find cars or junk in the backyard. You guys can see this property here, 8040, right here on the corner. There's going to be piles of junk, piles of trash in the backyard. So that's a good indication that, this is going to be a great area for us to start driving for dollars in. Okay, another thing that a lot of people will look for is going to be empty or green pools. You can see this one, 8013, that one kind of has a green pool. A lot of people will look for empty pools like this one here. That's a sign of, that it could be a vacant pool. And also a lot of people will also look for blue tarps on roofs. That's going to be a great indication that the roof is damaged. But I'm just going to survey the neighborhood, the maps. I'm going to try to find areas where there's plenty of trash, plenty of broken down cars in the backyard. And that's going to be a great area. That's going to be a great staple for me to start actually driving for dollars in. Okay, you can see this one here. That's going to be one that I want to add to my list. So if I wanted to, I can just drop my peg man on the top right-hand corner. Okay, I'm just going to drop them down. And that one was going to be 8040. So let's see if it's this one. So this is that property. One thing that I did want to mention when you're driving for dollars virtually is the aerial view is actually going to be updated on a weekly basis. Okay, so this is going to be updated pretty regularly. And then one thing that I did want to mention is if you're driving for dollars virtually, you can see on the bottom right-hand corner, it's going to have an image date. Okay, so that image date says it was taken in 2019. So that's something that you guys need to be aware of when you're driving for dollars. Okay, I wouldn't go back past 3 or 4 years just because a lot can happen in that time frame. Okay, but this is going to be one that I wanted to add. If I'm driving for dollars virtually, you could tell this is one that I wanted to add simply due to the fact that there was a bunch of trash, junk, cars in the backyard. So I would literally just add this property to my folder. It's this simple. Okay, so I'm going to add this one to my folder. Every Monday, the way that I organize my folders is going to be by the week. So Bryce driving for dollars 426-52. Then I'm just going to click on that and it's going to add it on the bottom right-hand corner. It's going to say success, property added successfully. Okay, so this is how I'm going to build my list. No one else is doing this, so no one else is going to have access to the same list. And that's why, the conversion rate for driving for dollars is going to be so high, simply because no one else has access to the same list. No other investor is driving down the same exact road, adding the same exact houses. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start driving for dollars. I'm literally just going to click. And this is going to allow me to look for properties that are super beat up, super distressed. We talk about the 4 pillars all the time and what those 4 pillars are, guys. And if it hits 2 or more of these 4 pillars, then you need to add it to your list. Okay, so let me find a property and then I'll tell you guys a little bit about the 4 pillars. This just allows us to, add properties that are actually distressed rather than properties that, are in pretty good condition. Okay, so this one here, you can see that it's got a damaged roof, and I'm going to list off the 4 pillars. Okay, so the first one that we look for is going to be poor landscape. Okay, so poor landscape means Is there dead grass? Is there overgrown weeds? That sort of thing. The second thing that we look for is going to be exterior distress. So when we mention exterior distress, you can see the paint is starting to chip. Maybe there's some broken or boarded up windows. That's a sign of exterior distress, right? And then the third thing that we look for is going to be a damaged roof. Okay, these are all things that are super expensive. You can see this is a damaged roof. The shingles are starting to fall off. Maybe there's a blue tarp on it. That's going to be a sign of a damaged roof. And then the fourth thing that we look for, which is probably one of the most obvious, is going to be broken down cars or trash or junk. Okay, so as long as it hits 2 or more of those 4 pillars, we would add that to our list. Okay, so this one does, you can see it has a damaged roof, and then it also has a broken down car. Okay, so this one hits 2 or more of those 4 pillars. And what we're going to do is we're going to add property. You can see it's an absentee owner. We're going to put it into our folder, and it's going to save it exactly right there. And then another cool thing, guys, if you wanted to skip trace it and cold call it right from here, you can literally just hit skip trace. And it's going to give you a list of phone numbers. Now, if you wanted to start cold calling this list, what you would do is you would only call the first 3 phone numbers. Okay, the first 3 phone numbers are typically going to be the most accurate. I wouldn't bother my time, calling the 4th, 5th, or 6th phone number. Be as efficient as possible. We've noticed that the first 3 phone numbers are going to be the most accurate. Okay, you can see the mailing address. This is an absentee owner. The owner of this lives in California. Here's the mailing address. Another cool thing that you guys can do is you can actually send mail. You can send mail. You can send an SMS campaign. You guys can skip trace, cold call it. There's multiple ways that you guys can get your first deal utilizing this app. Okay, so we added that one. And if you guys saw Sunday service last night, you would know that what Matt Beard does is he'd actually take a picture of this and he would send it to the owner of the property asking, hey, are you aware that your property is in this condition? Okay, I thought that was genius. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to keep going. So we're already at 2 properties. Usually if I'm doing this, I can knock it out pretty quickly, but I wanted to kind of take my time, survey all of the houses, make sure we're not skipping any. Like this one I would not add just because there's just poor landscape, right? It's got a newer roof, newer windows. So this is one that I would stay away from. Looks like this one on the left might have a little bit of roof damage. So I would survey this one and I would take a deeper look. So right off the bat, I know it's got roof damage. You guys can see the roof is pretty shot, pretty bad condition. But other than that, I don't really see too much things wrong with this one. So I would actually skip this one. Another thing that we look for if we're driving for dollars is their vehicle. So these ones are, pretty new, pretty nice. So that's one I'm going to stay away from as well. Okay, this one too, let's see. So I see poor landscape, the grass is dead, a little bit of roof damage, but myself personally, I'm very particular with the type of properties that I add. I don't want to accumulate a huge list because then that's just going to get expensive. A lot of people that are, just starting out in this business might have a very small budget. So I think just adding the ugliest properties that you could possibly find is the best way to go. Because at the end of the day, you're going to have to skip trace it. You're going to have to cold call. You don't want to add properties that, don't need a ton of work because you're going to be the one cold calling that person. Okay, this one, let's see. So this one was 2019. There's going to be some junk, some poor landscape, but other than that, I don't think this one's going to hit my list. So we're going to keep going. Okay, so this one here, let's see. They've got some roof damage, poor landscape. But this one really just is not good enough for me. So I'm going to skip that one. Another thing when we're driving for dollars is we'll usually stay away from properties that look that have solar panels, just because that means they're invested in their home, right? So, I mean, those things are not cheap. So usually we'll stay away from those, but I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen right now. And I'm going to show you a house that we actually added today. It actually had solar panels on it. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to show you guys that house. Okay, and these are all houses that we added today. We try to hit 50 properties every single day. But this is the one, I mean, typically when we're driving for dollars, we'll stay away from houses that have solar panels just because they're invested in their home. But this one, you can see, we're going to add this every single time. They do have solar panels, but you can see they have junk, broken down cars, poor landscape. So that's going to be one that we wanted to add. Okay, so that is a big question that I get. If they have solar panels, do you typically stay away from those? And the answer is, if it looks like this, add it, right? You can't go wrong with adding a property with that. And another thing that we try to look for when we're driving for dollars, this one doesn't hit 2 or more of the 4 pillars, but you can see that there's going to be ways to find vacant properties. Okay, one of those reasons, or one of those ways, is they're going to have a ton of door hangers, ton of mail on the door. One thing that we've noticed, this isn't true all of the time, but there's going to be a ton of no trespassing signs. We've noticed maybe 9 out of 10 times that property is actually. And another way you can tell a property is vacant is you can see there's no tire marks on the driveway. Okay, so that's something to keep an eye out when you're driving for dollars. Look for a lot of mail on the door, no trespassing signs, and look at the driveway and see if there's actual tire marks on there. Okay, and I wanted to show you guys kind of what that looked like when we're driving for dollars, but I'm going to share my screen and we're going to try to get a few more. Okay, let's see. So this one, I mean, it does have a ton of cars, but you can see, I mean, I don't know if I would add this one. It's not as bad as the other one that you guys saw previously. So I'm going to skip that one, but it really just boils down to, what your budget is. Okay, and we're going to continue to do this. This is one of the best ways for you guys to build your list. Okay, that's a good property. We're going to skip that one. And that's why it's important to do your due diligence, kind of what we were doing at the start of this, to find piles of junk or broken down cars in the backyards. That way we kind of have an idea that we're in a good area, that we can quickly add 50 properties. We added 41 properties today, and it took us about 48 minutes. Okay, we're going to continue to survey, try to find some more distressed properties. And the cool thing about this is you guys can delegate this task out, which I'm sure you're going to talk about that on tonight's live at 5 p.m. You guys can have virtual assistants doing this for you, right? It's just going to be another list that you guys can hit. It's going to be custom. It's going to be niche. So this one definitely has poor landscape. The roof, I would say it's not in bad condition. Not quite sure if that's a broken down car, but it looks like their AC unit is kind of rusted. That's kind of an older AC here in Phoenix. So let me see if this is so that's owner occupied. And another cool way for you guys to cross-reference, and what I mean by that is you can see that the image date on the bottom right-hand corner was taken February 2019. Okay, so this, I think, holds back a lot of people from driving for dollars virtually. But there's actual ways for you guys to, cross-reference to make sure that the property still is in this condition. There's going to be a sale date when you click on the property. So if this photo was taken, 2019, which it was, and the sale date was 2020, chances are this property does not look this way. So that's something that I would avoid. And then you would cross-reference, the aerial view. You would go back up to the aerial view by clicking on this, this tab here. You can see if there's still piles of junk or piles of trash in the backyards. Okay, so that's the two main reasons, or the two main ways for you guys to kind of cross-reference and see if that property is still in poor condition. I'm actually going to answer a few questions. Let me see if I can find one more. Okay, that one's not that beat up. Let's see if this one is. So I can see it has a damaged roof, poor landscape, but this one really is not, beat up as I thought. So we're going to go ahead and skip that one. Let's see what this one is. Okay, so this one here has got poor landscape and it has exterior distress. This is another good example of what we mean by exterior distress. So the windows aren't broken or boarded up, but you can see that the paint is starting to chip. That's a form of exterior distress. However, they do have a newer vehicle in the driveway. So that one I would skip. I know probably some of you that are driving for dollars, probably, you guys would add that one. But that really just goes back to your personal preference. I would stay away from that one just because it's a newer vehicle. And it's not as beat up as, some of the other houses on here. Okay, this one definitely has poor landscape. Is that a boarded up window? No, that one fits, so that one's good. Okay, let me answer a few questions on here in case, okay, we got about 7 minutes left. Okay, Jared says, looking to squat up virtually. I'm focusing my virtual driving for dollars and cold calling in Richmond, Virginia, but I'm down to squat up in any market. Awesome, Jared. Appreciate you taking action. Staying consistent is the best thing. Okay, what's up, guys? A little pump. What's going on, little pump? Zach's a sub 2 student, just recently joined, so make sure you're squatting up with Zach if you're in the Indiana market. Yeah, Randy. So Randy and Lisa, the 4 pillars make it so easy for us to know what properties we should add to our list. Yeah, that's the benefit of having, the 4 pillars. If it fits that criteria, if it's truly a beat up property, I would definitely add it to your list. But me personally, just because I'm the actual one cold calling some of these, I want to add, the ugliest distressed properties that I can. So that's why I'm very picky with some of the properties that I add. But it really just boils down to your budget as well. I know some people that just add properties with poor landscape. And, at the end of the day, if their budget allows for it, I don't see why that would be a problem. Denver. So Abraham, when driving for dollars, how do you know the pictures are current? So I think we covered that in case you weren't on when we did. There's going to be an image date on the bottom right-hand corner. And what you're going to do is you're going to cross-reference. So you're going to click on this property. This one has an invalid date, so that one you wouldn't be able to check. But you can see that at the bottom right-hand corner, the image date was taken February 2019. Let's say that this one fit, the 4 pillars. This one has 2 or more things wrong with it. I'm going to click on it and I'm going to look at the sale date. So the sale date here is 1/10/2011. So I know that this house still looks the same if this was a true ugly property. Now, if the sale date was, February 2020, I would not add that because chances are someone already did. Someone already bought it, locked it up, and already signed it to a cash buyer. So that's one way to check. And then the aerial view, when you go on, this option, this is going to be updated on a weekly basis, right? So you can double check, if there's going to be trash or junk in the backyard, maybe the roof is damaged. You can cross-reference, going back from here in Street View, like 4330, there's a bunch of trash in that one. So that's this property here. You can see that there's going to be a ton of junk on the side. Some extra cars. This is one that I would add. And I know people that just do this from this option where they're just finding empty pools, maybe houses that have blue tarps on them, trash or broken down cars. They would just drop the pegman, add property, and then they would add it to their folder, and that's going to say success, property added successfully. Okay, this is how you build your list doing this sort of thing. Okay, yeah, does BatchDriven do skip tracing too? Yeah, you can actually skip trace it from the app. I'll show you guys how easy it is. So you guys can, let's say you wanted to cold call, this seller. What you would do is you would just add it. You can see that the property information, the owner name, the bed, bath, the year it was built. Obviously, you want to double check, make sure that's correct information. But you can skip trace it from here, and you're going to get a list of phone numbers. Okay, so the first 3 phone numbers are going to be a landline. The next 2 are going to be mobile phones. But if I was just starting out, I would just focus on calling the first 3 phone numbers. Those are going to be the most accurate. But yes, great question. Why is it so laggy? My Wi-Fi. I'm sharing it with Nick in the other room, so sometimes our Wi-Fi is laggy back and forth. Peggy, so do you look up their info before you call them? There's multiple ways you can do this. Me personally, just because my budget would allow for it, what I would do is I would build my list and I would actually export it into a power dialer. And then once I found a motivated seller, then I would do the property research. But if you just wanted to, you're doing the one-off calls, maybe your budget doesn't allow for it, you can obviously just pull it up, skip trace it, and then you could, pull up the information and cold call it from there. Okay, we got quite a bit of questions. So we got about 2 minutes and then we're going to pass this off. Yeah, BatchDriven actually allows you to skip trace LLCs as well as the corporations. Peanut Games, he is joining at 5 p.m. This is just the pre-show. So Barbara, I saw some houses here in New Jersey and try to skip trace, BatchDriven, no info. Do you move on? So the cool thing about this is you can reach out to the support team and they'll actually put in the information for you. It's going to be an extra step, but I look at that as a good thing. More extra steps is typically going to be, a better way for you to get that deal faster. Appreciate it. Okay, we got about 1 more minute and then we'll just be doing this again. If this is your guys' first time hopping in, what we do, and if you actually got value from this, Monday through Friday, what I do, it's called Field Day. So we'll actually go live for 30 minutes, 4:30 p.m. Arizona time. You guys can come bring your questions and we'll talk about all things driving for dollars. I'll help you guys break down your business, kind of give you guys action steps. So if you guys found value in this, make sure you tune in 4 p.m. Arizona time. We go live on the BatchDriven YouTube. But other than that, it is 5 o'clock and the main show is about to start. So thank you guys so much.
Welcome to Wholesale Hotline, where we cover everything to do with wholesale real estate. I'm Jamil Damji.
I'm Brent Daniels.
And I am Pace Morby.
And together we cover the most important parts of wholesale real estate.
Lead generation.
Conversion of sellers into contracts.
And dispositions. Guys, remember when you're watching this show, do us a favor and squad up in the comments.
Make sure that you are liking and subscribing to the YouTube channels and in the Facebook group Wholesale Hotline.
Most important, we want to know we're doing a great job for you and helping you build your business. So go give us a review on iTunes and or Spotify.
So squad up and enjoy the show!
Yo,
Yeah!
Mr. RJ Bates in the freaking house, dude, all the way from Alaska.
What's up, boys? Let's have a good show tonight.
Brent, why don't you open us up?
That's right. This is Wholesale Hotline number 62. We are here to answer your questions. And today, oh my goodness, we are talking about virtual wholesaling. We're talking about stepping out of your backyard and doing this business anywhere that you choose. All right. And we have the absolute master on here. If you have not seen the interview that I've done with RJ Bates here in this studio, it's got over 10,000 views. It's bananas, but he's done deals in every single state. It is an absolute pleasure. RJ Bates the third is here. Pace Morby's here. Jamil Damji's here. It's going to be an unbelievable show. I'm excited. Everybody's excited. We're already at 200 live viewers, guys. 200 live viewers are here to hear what RJ has to say. So let's get this thing going. Let's lock and load. Let's get this. RJ, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing fantastic. It's an honor to be here. Thank you, guys.
RJ, are you doing deals in Alaska?
I am. Anchorage specifically.
So freaking weird because, last week, Kelly Hanno, who Kelly Hanno, she's, helped us coordinate some collaborations that we've done together. She says, you know what, we got to talk about some like obscure markets. And I'm like, there's nowhere more obscure in my opinion than freaking Alaska. And I know just the guy for this. And I know RJ, you're doing deals in multiple states. So why don't you tell everybody, the whole audience who doesn't know you, I'd be surprised if anybody on here doesn't know you, but why don't you tell everybody that's maybe tuning in for the first time, where do you market for deals specifically?
Well, the simple answer is we are nationwide. So we are constantly running marketing campaigns in all 50 states. I will say, I have to correct Brent. We haven't done deals in all 50 states. There's one that's still lacking us, and it's Utah. So if anybody wants to squat up in Utah so I can just go ahead and get that check off, it would be fantastic. But yeah, I mean,
let's get it done on this show. Let's do it this show. Anybody in Utah that's working on a deal, put it in the comments. RJ is going to close it.
Yeah, I'll dispo the thing. Okay, please let me help you. But yeah, we're in Alaska and Hawaii. Those are two of our main markets. We've been there for 2 or 3 years at this point in time. Well, actually, Hawaii, we've been there probably going on 5 years. So yeah, it's a little bit crazy, and people sometimes look at me like, what are you doing deals in Alaska and Hawaii? And a lot of it just has to do with the fact that I had close personal friends from my childhood that lived in those locations. And it kind of started this, hey, we can do deals anywhere. And so it all started around the basis of y'all's like whole motto, which is squatting up. And that's how Titanium became a nationwide company.
Interesting. So RJ answered this for me because you get a lot of people are like, should I invest in my backyard or should I invest, virtually? So we have a guy, buddy of ours lives here. His name's Ricky Morgan. Okay. Ricky Morgan lives in Arizona, but virtually fix and flips in Jersey. And I'm sitting here thinking, why in the hell? Like most of the time it's people in Jersey are virtually wholesaling and fixing and flipping in Phoenix. Like what is going on? And it came down to that same thing. He had childhood resources in that area. So would you suggest people start in their backyard, start where they have the most resources, start virtually? What would be your first answer to somebody asking you that question?
Yeah, if you're just getting started, my recommendation is you absolutely market in your backyard, but also pick a virtual market. And here's my reasoning behind this. I tell people all the time, if you are only marketing in your backyard, you're going to go get a deal under contract and you're going to assign it for a $20,000 or $30,000 assignment fee. And then I'm going to ask you, how'd you get that deal? And your answer is going to be, My second cousin, third removed from my mom's dad, died, and they knew I was a wholesaler and they brought me the deal. And then I'm going to say, how are you going to replicate that over and over and over again? And you're going to say, well, I can't. And if you go to a virtual market, you're going to force yourself to become a really good marketer. You're going to force yourself to be a good closer, how to analyze deals, and also you're going to get really good at dispositions. And so that's why I suggest, even when you're first getting started, pick a virtual market and start marketing there as well.
I've got a slew of questions for RJ.
Go for it.
RJ, first off, love you, bro. You're amazing. We have some mutual friends. RJ was like one of those elusive fish that at Keighley, everybody wanted to land RJ, right? Why? Because Titanium Investments isn't a slouch company. When you do tax record searches of owners and people who buy across the country, one company name comes up over and over and over and over and over and over again, and it's RJ's company, Titanium Investments. So RJ became that elusive whale that we were looking to land at Keighley. We wanted to communicate with RJ, build a relationship, help him dispo deals in the markets that we were at. So I knew of RJ way before RJ knew of me. Guys, that's how legit and how long RJ's been in this game, right? We also have some mutual, and I'm just saying the truth here. We also have some mutual friends who had rolled out the red carpet for RJ in my understanding of who he was before him and I got to meet. So RJ was always this really almost ethereal character in my mind of this awesome guy who's just buying up America. Then you meet RJ, and you see why he has that amazing reputation, because he's genuine, he's honest, he does good business, he has a gorgeous wife, who also is a killer like him, probably better than he is at a lot of things that he does. And so you see this powerhouse team, and you can understand why they're so successful. So RJ, welcome to the show. You're amazing. We love you. You're somebody that everybody needs to listen to. These are the questions that my students have for the quintessential virtual wholesaler, and that would be you. Okay. And I'm just gonna start off from the top. How do you rock a showing when you got to do a virtual disposition? What are your processes for rocking a virtual showing?
Yeah, so we handle that a couple of different ways. First and foremost, it's going to depend on if the property is tenant occupied, vacant, or owner occupied. Now, I'll be full transparent on you. A lot of the marketing that we do here at Titanium Investments is towards landlords. Okay, that is our ideal seller. So we're looking for vacant properties or tenant occupied. Very rarely do we come across the owner occupied properties. So that makes it a little bit easier for us because we're very rarely having to deal with the seller being present during showings. Okay. Even with the prototypical landlord, a lot of times they're like, hey, you can just schedule it with our tenant and you can show up, or put a lockbox on there and just schedule the showings. I really like vacant properties because that helps us alleviate the pressures of having a seller there present during the showings. Okay. Now, say it's a market that we have nobody that is receiving regular paychecks from Titanium Investments. Okay, so let's just say like Kansas City, Missouri. Okay, we don't have anybody there. First and foremost, if we know someone that we like and we trust, okay, we're going to immediately squat up with them and just JV the deal. Okay, and that's, I would almost kind of consider ourselves the acquisitions Keighley. Okay, like we're the cookie monsters of just like, hey, we're locking up contracts, and then we're always looking for the partner to dispo with. Okay, and then say we don't have anybody there at that point in time. If it's vacant, we're just going to put a lockbox on it. We've gone to such extreme lengths to hire Uber drivers to go to Home Depot to pick up the lockbox and put it on. If we need somebody there for the showing, then we might reach out to someone like a realtor or something like that to help us. But we've even had sellers show the properties for us. and just said, hey, our contractor's coming by to look at the property. Creativity is sometimes needed when you are a nationwide company and you're getting deals all across the country. I mean, we just got a deal in Fayetteville, Tennessee, and the only thing that we could come up with was, hey, Fayetteville, Tennessee's 45 minutes away from Huntsville, Alabama. Let's call Keith Everett. And luckily enough, he's helping us out. So it's that kind of thought process on, there's not just a straightforward answer. Sometimes we have to get creative to come up with that answer.
So RJ, before Jamil jumps on that, just while what you were talking on, I want to make a note that I want to come back after Jamil's done asking questions. I want to come back to what is the script that you're using to talk to the seller that's showing the property for you, because
let's deal with that right now, Pace.
Okay, because we've dealt with that, but I can tell you a lot of new wholesalers, as you know, RJ, you get a ton of DMs, you get a ton of questions. They're afraid just to bring up buying the house, right? Let alone, hey, seller, I said I was going to buy your house, but now I'm going to have you show it to a gang of people. Is there a typical script, and are there seeds that you're planting in the very first couple of conversations so that they know that that's coming, or is that something you spring on them? Give the newbies in the audience a little bit of light shed on that.
So we very much plant seeds along the way, right? And that's part of the acquisitions process. Now, for people that have watched me close deals strictly through text message, they're probably like, well, I've seen RJ send 4 texts and lock something up under contract. So there's not a whole lot of planting seeds there. On a typical basis, though, where we get on the phone with the seller, we are letting them know, hey, our process is we are going to lock this property up under contract. We are then going to have multiple inspections on the property, and then we're going to proceed with closing. And so we kind of start off with using the word inspections pretty regularly. And at that point in time, we're going to let them know, hey, either the key phrases that we'll use there is contractors or private investors or investors of ours, which in my opinion is being fully transparent with them. I mean, that's what an end buyer is. It's who we're wholesaling to. Those are our investors that we are partnering with on the deal. But even at times, I mean, we are as transparent as, hey, we can't take this deal down because of the location, but we could help solve your problem by wholesaling this property. And at that point in time, because you are so transparent with them, the showings is almost a moot point, because you basically told them you have to get investors in there to wholesale the property. And typically, if there's enough motivation there, they will work with you, especially depending on the market. I'm not saying this would work in a Phoenix, Arizona, or a Dallas-Fort Worth area, but in some locations, like we just locked one up in some city in Michigan that I've never heard of. In that circumstance, we can absolutely just be fully transparent with them and say, hey, we're not going to lock this down because we were reaching out to you about a property in Detroit, and you have something somewhere in a very small town in Michigan. We can wholesale that, but we can't take that down. And they're okay with that because it's a vacant property and they're highly distressed.
Awesome. Pace, are you did that solve your question?
Yeah. I like just the fact that you have disclosure, you're planting seeds, you're letting people know what's coming up. I think a lot of the new investors in this game run into major problems. And Jamil, you see it on, your dispo side with Keegley, where you get wholesalers that are afraid to even get access to the house because they didn't plant the proper seeds. And then they're just giving the house to you to sell it sight unseen, right? Because they simply didn't plant a few seeds up front. Yep. And RJ and them go a freaking step above and beyond that. Like, inspections to the point where the seller's like, the seller probably feels like they're on your team trying to get these inspections done.
Yeah, and real quick on that note, we really started doing that pretty heavy right when COVID hit, right? We completely changed how we did acquisitions and dispositions and everything. Everybody had to have a huge pivot there, but for me, it was such an amazing change for our business, because we, at that point in time, became the company that I always wanted us to be, which was 1,000% virtual. I never liked taking the time to go on acquisitions appointments and take that time. I always wanted to lock things up over the phone. but there was the back and forth on our conversion rate and what was better for us at the time. And so when we really changed it to, hey, our process, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, is we get it under contract based off of this conversation. We're then going to have an inspection, and then we're going to come back to you and tell you whether or not we can move forward at that price or change. And it was very similar to the open door strategy, right? That's how they did their acquisitions. Now open door is different, but that was kind of the basis around the decision that we made.
Awesome.
Love it.
Awesome. RJ,
Jamil?
seeing as how you are the Keegley of acquisitions, that means that you're taking big bites out there, right?
Yes.
I think this is a question that I'm very curious about, and I've seen this question get asked 2 or 3 times in the chat. What is your primary marketing channel, and how do you mitigate data expenses, and what is your cost per contract, and do they vary state to state?
It very much varies state to state, and it also depends on the types of campaigns that we're running. So one of the campaigns that we just completed was a nationwide campaign using batch leads toll-free numbers. That was the first time I had ever done that, because that was a newer feature that batch leads rolled out, and I wanted to see what would happen with that, and we saw pretty similar results. I saw that I've always thought that if we're in a market and we're somewhere between that 20 to 30% response rate, then we're right in the sweet spot. That means we have really solid data. That also means that we're pulling the right list, and it also means that we're refreshing our numbers frequently enough. And so we saw that our nationwide campaign using the toll-free numbers was 24% response rate, which is excellent.
So is that cold calling? Are you texting? Like
That's
when
that's texting on batch leads.
Texting on batch leads, and then you put a toll-free number for them to call you back at?
We're texting from a toll-free number. So we were texting from a 1855 number.
And
let me explain my thought process behind that, because the data was not the issue for me. I don't have a problem with the data expense, because I can reuse that data over and over and over and over again, right? The problem I had is having 50 phone numbers in 50 different markets, and I'm like, we're getting chewed up and spit out with just our phone number expense, right? And especially where it was, hey, maybe we go and we run our marketing flow in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Then we pause, but 90 days later, we want to go back to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Now we're purchasing more phone numbers, and at times they're based off of the response that we're getting and the results of the campaign, maybe 25% of the way or 33% of the way into the campaign, we pull the plug because it's not flowing the way that we want it to, and we want to move on somewhere else, but we've already had the phone expense. So the toll-free numbers was one of the ways that we kind of alleviated that heavy expense.
Any reduction on response rate by going toll-free with your numbers?
We didn't. That's what I'm saying. I always want to be 20 to 30%, and we were 24% with the toll-free numbers through the entire United States. I think that campaign was 267,000 records that we text from start to finish using nothing but toll-free numbers.
And that's just showing like it's like a weird digit number. It's not like a real phone number.
No, it's a 1855 number.
Can they call you back on it?
Yes. Just like any other batch number.
Do you have somebody calling back those messages by any chance?
Like if they call us and we miss the call, are we calling them back? Yeah, we're calling them from our cell phones.
Bro, we've been doing that. Oh my gosh, it is fish in a barrel. It's really crazy. I mean, everybody out there, if you are not calling back the people that are calling you and leaving a voicemail or whatever, it is a shame. I mean, most people aren't. So you're going to really set yourself apart. But you've got somebody captive there. If they've seen your text, they call you back, and they're not, totally just, spitting fire on the phone. You've got a really, really, really good shot of at least having a good conversation with them.
Well, and just the one bit of advice I could give anybody that's doing texting or cold calling, because we do both pretty heavily, is you have to answer the phone when they call you back. Like, I know there's this conversation about, maybe I should let it go to a voicemail so we're removing the FUs and the angry sellers. No, every time I get one of those, I know I'm one more closer to the guy that's going to call me and say, I'll sell it to you right now for 10 grand. Take it or leave it. I mean, it's so worth it to answer the phone when you're doing any form of marketing. So going back to Jamil's question, though, because I didn't answer all of it, I kind of got on a rabbit trail there. We are doing SMS. We are doing cold calling. We're doing RVMs, and then we're doing direct mail. So that is our full, as well as PPC. But for the people that are specifically watching on here, I would say PPC is a little bit sophisticated, and it's very cost prohibitive if you don't have the right person either running it for you or you have learned the ins and outs of that. So for someone that's just wholesaling right now and they're really wanting to get their marketing channel down, there should be a flow within your data through those marketing channels I just talked about.
So I've actually seen this comment come up a couple times today about the new TCPA laws. Brent and RJ, we own a virtual assistant company, vahub.com. We own that. And I just texted my partners. I was like, hey, what are we doing to combat that? How are we educating our clients on how to handle that? Brent or RJ, I've seen the comment come up a lot. Do you guys have any feedback on that new law that's coming out, or have you not researched it enough yet?
Yeah, I've looked into it. I mean, it's really attacking robocalls, right? So they're going to be able to realize if it is a computer that is if it's recording when they call you. So, you know, I don't know. I mean, I've got a call into my telecommunications attorney today to see if there's anything that we can do to educate and put out a YouTube video together. So that'll be coming soon. But as much as I've found, I mean, this has been in the pipes for a long time. I mean, this is Trump administration. This isn't anything new. So, yeah.
Yeah, I just looked up the article, and it's like all the way back from 2019. And like you said, it's primarily around robo-dials that don't have any human beings behind them. I'll throw it in the side chat. But I think that's a good idea, actually, is getting a TCPA attorney maybe on Wholesale Hotline at some point to chat about it. RJ, do you have any feedback on that yet?
I mean, but my answer is I'm not smart enough to know the answers to any of those things that come out. So my phone calls are to Evo at Batch, and I'm like, Evo, are we in trouble? Can I keep doing what I'm doing with Batch Leads and Batch Dialer? That's my answer.
Awesome. I think we didn't get to it, but what are the cost per contracts on average for you? On your nationwide marketing campaigns? Do they differ market to market? And can you share that KPI?
Yeah. So when you really break down specific markets, because there are times where I look at things a little bit differently than some people. At least I don't hear people talk about it this way. There are times where our team just needs a victory. Okay, depending on where we have run campaigns. So for example, we've just run a couple of campaigns in Jackson, Mississippi, and Birmingham, Alabama, as well as Louisiana. Those three specific states, I could probably go into Batch Leads and I could pull less than 1,000 records. So what's that? $100. It's called 1,000 records. That's $100 in skip tracing, and then maybe another $50-$60 in SMS. And we're going to be able to lock up a deal and probably wholesale it somewhere around $5,000 to $7,000 assignment fee. Those are our morale boosting markets where we just need a victory on the floor. Okay. If we want to land a big one, then we're going to go to places like Massachusetts or a Florida or Phoenix, Arizona, somewhere like that, where we feel like the cost per contract is going to be increased, but our ability to get upwards to the $20,000 to $30,000 assignment fee is more likely. The other thing that we're really good about is reusing our data over and over and over again, because we do have so many different markets. So for example, to answer your question about our cost per contract, that's a really difficult question to answer because it's constantly a moving target. We're still locking up contracts from campaigns that we've run 6, 7, 8 months ago. Today, I mean, literally today we locked up a deal based off of data that we skip traced back in August. So I would have to go back and kind of rerun the KPIs on that, on how it's getting less and less on cost per contract as we're running. And it's also dependent upon where it is within our marketing flow, because we are very heavy on going from SMS to cold calling to the RVM to the direct mail. And we repeat that cycle over and over and over again.
Is that your sequence? Do you hit them first with a text, then a call, then an RVM, then direct mail?
Yes. So our marketing flow is text, call, RVM, direct mail. So that's our marketing channel.
That sounds like a cheat code from the old Nintendo.
Yeah, it does.
It very much is. So
love it. Thank you, RJ. That was great.
Yes. Thank you.
RJ,
and real quick, I just want to throw this out there because I know we're all very close friends with Batch. Batch's products allowed that marketing flow to be a possibility for us.
Yep.
Prior to us converting over to all of their systems, I mean, we were struggling in each one of those facets, and that allowed us to really dial in this ability to be able to import and export data within the systems, and our team to be able to flow within the different systems because of the similar user interfaces and all of that. So I'm very grateful to Batch as a product that we are able to now do that marketing flow.
Love it. So we talked about lead generation. Let's talk a little bit about conversion. When we talk about conversion, we talk about really three things: pre-qualifying the lead, right? Lead follow-up, and then the offer presentation. Now, if you're not doing the offer presentation in person, I think that this is a meaty section of this. How do you present the offer virtually? What's the best practices for that in your business?
So if we're going through SMS, one of the questions I always get is at what point in time do you get on the phone with the seller?
Right.
We allow the seller to determine whether or not we continue the conversation through text or if we get on the phone. I actually prefer for us to convert through text message because it allows us the opportunity to call them later on and it not necessarily be Titanium Investments, right? Someone else on the team can later on call. So if we can convert through text message, that's great. Our flow there is very simple. This is RJ Bakes. I'm interested in buying 123 Main Street. Are you interested in selling that property? Yes. Excellent. I can give you an offer fairly quickly if you can answer a couple of questions. Is that okay? Before they answer, you ask the questions. You don't wait on them to answer that. You then say, is the property tenant or owner occupied? This is all within one text, by the way. Is the property tenant or owner occupied? If it's rented, how much is it rented for? Can you please tell me the condition? Is it scary, ugly, good, or perfect?
Scary, ugly, good, or perfect.
There's all one text?
Yes, all that's one text. And at that point in time, when they answer those questions, if you have all the answers, you're making an offer. After you ask them, do you have an asking price in mind? If they don't give you the asking price, we then make an offer. That's our entire conversion through text message. Now, if it's on the phone and cold calling, look, I'm totally the guy that says this over and over and over again about rapport. I think it's irrelevant to this process. I think, and what I mean by that is I think there's a lot of people that are new in this and they get lost in what rapport actually is. Okay, not saying it's not important to do that, but it needs to be true, right? You need to build trust with them that you are there to solve their problem and you're finding out what their problem is, not finding out what their cat ate for dinner that night or finding out what their favorite sports team is.
Bro, I couldn't agree with you anymore. I tell people all the time, you don't build credibility by talking about cats. You don't build rapport by talking about cats. You build rapport by building credibility. That's it. It's all about credibility. Can I actually solve your problem? Do I care about you? And do I have the tools to solve that? I hear other people, like they'll call me and go, hey, will you listen to this call I made with a seller? And they spend 30 minutes talking about their grandkids and all this other stuff. And the seller is like, how do I get out of this conversation?
Yeah. Exactly.
Great point. I love that.
So we are all about building credibility where we are very straight to the point about we are here to buy your house. And we want to understand the facts about your situation. And I think one of the things that my team does really well is pulling that out of people with the authenticity and the transparency of why we're on the phone. They respect that, and so they are more forthcoming with that information than I think if like what you're talking about right there. Why some of your students might be struggling with closing deals is because they're never actually getting to the closing of the deal, right? And by the time they get there, the seller is so turned off that it's like, even if you made me the offer, I'm not even going to listen long enough to hear it. And so we never want to be those people. And of course, are there the one-off sellers where maybe that hurts us? Yes, but over the course of time, what I've determined is because I've tried to close that way, and it's not my personality. And because it's not my personality, it's not Cassie's personality, it's not Elijah's personality, it's not going to be any of our team's personalities either. And so we want to be true to ourselves, solve the seller's problem, and by doing that, eventually we get to buy their house.
So how do you stay straight ahead and build credibility if the seller's trying to get wiggly with the conversation?
So, I think there's times where you do need to go down the rabbit hole with them because they need to tell you something, and maybe they're not going to be as transparent and forthcoming to you right out the gate, right?
Right.
So maybe you need to go down that rabbit hole a little bit with them. But at the end of the day, I've heard a lot of people that watch me close deals on lives before talk about how aggressive I am and things like that. But over the course of time, when you watch me on the phone, the number one thing that I think people realize is how patient we are on the phone. Yep. We listen, and I mean you truly listen. And when it gets awkward silence, there is nothing better than awkward silence with a seller. Let it exist because they're going to speak up and they're going to tell you even more. And when they give you that information, you wait until you have what you need, and that's when you attack. At that point in time.
That Closers Olympics, brother, that was like you on full display. And, rewind the tape there. I had you going to the finals on that. I think you had that thing, brother. I still think you had that thing. So I think you got robbed there a bit, and I think the people in the comments think that as well. But it's straightforward. You're going right at it, and I think that people really respected it. The people that you were talking to, these leads that you had never talked to before, really respected that you were like, listen, I need to buy a house today. Is it going to be yours, yes or no? It's incredible. But how do you, real quick, how do you go from text message, yes, I want an offer, to sending them an offer, getting that signed, and starting the work?
Yeah. So once we say, hey, I'll offer you $20,000, they say yes. We ask what's a good email address. We then send them the contract through DocuSign. At that point in time, we are following up with them if we don't get it back quickly, or if they don't view the contract quickly, right? DocuSign lets you know the sellers viewed the contract. If we see, hey, they viewed it and hours pass, we're then hopping on the phone with them and saying, hey, this is Patrick from Titanium Investments. We're just following up with you. We know we sent you a contract. Did you have any questions about this? Again, we want to allow them to feel comfortable within the chosen form of communication. We reached out to them through text message, and they've chosen to go through the entire conversation through text message. I want to respect that as much as possible, right? Because I'm the person that I would do business through text message, whereas my partner Elijah would never do that. But I would be so adverse to a cold call, and he's the opposite. He'll buy anything through a cold call. So just knowing that, we've kind of developed through our different personalities, hey, this is how sellers are as well. And so we just kind of walk through that process in our minds and also through trial and error. I mean, this is how we've landed where we have at this point in time, and we're always tweaking it inside our office.
Awesome.
Hey, Pace, what are we at right now for live viewers?
360.
Okay, 360. We should have 360 likes on YouTube. Guys, do us a favor. RJ took time out of his night tonight from his family to be here with us. Show this man some love and appreciation by smashing the like button, snapping a photo of this, sharing it in your Instagram stories. Also, go give RJ a follow, please, on his Instagram. RJ, what's your Instagram for the audience?
It's just RJ Bates III.
RJ Bates III. Guys, go follow him on Instagram. He's a wealth of knowledge, a fantastic guy, a friend of the show, and everybody should be listening to what he has to say. Thank you.
RJ, I keep seeing a lot of comments in the side chat about this right here. Do you want to address what's on the screen?
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, anybody that watched that knows that Carlos was not paying attention, or he was he had to buy me a freaking $400 steak dinner because he knew what he did to me. So when I came to Phoenix, he bought me a $400 steak dinner because he knew he made a mistake. Look, it was a great time, okay? And I talked a lot of trash prior to that. This will be the only place I'm ever this transparent about this, okay? And I probably picked the wrong show to do this, but I love all you guys, so.
It's the right show.
Right. I was in Alaska the week prior to the Closers Olympics, and we're working on a flip, okay? It's me and Cassie and Elijah. We're there. And I'm like, hey, guys, you know the Closers Olympics is next week, and, you know, I'm not on the phones all day, every day. And I mean, I know I can close deals, but, I mean, there's some killers on this. I'm a little bit nervous about just, you know, falling flat on my face, you know? And they were like, they laughed at me. And they were like, just be you.
Yeah.
You'll do great. Just be you. And I was like, okay, cool. So I don't know what overcame me that moment, but for those first 30 minutes, I almost dropped an F-bomb right in the middle of the Closure Olympics. My adrenaline was so high, I lost my mind, but I was very upset that I didn't get the win there in the second round. Brent gave it to me twice, and Max gave it to me 1.5 times. Somehow I lost. I still don't know how. I think there was bad math there, but I've moved on. I got the call though. Apparently, Closers Olympics is coming back, and they asked me if I wanted to do it again. And I said, you obviously need a judge that can count. So how about you make me the judge, and I'll bring my trash talking mouth to the judging table, and I'll light that on a fire for 20 hours straight. So we'll see what ends up happening there.
That's amazing. When's it coming back?
I don't know. It was when I was talking to Keith Everett about that deal. So we'll see when it's coming back, but I'm excited about it.
Dude, that would be epic. I remember being able to walk in and sit next to Brent while he was judging it. That was a really, really cool event.
If you guys are okay with me continuing down my list.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. I came prepared. You don't get RJ on a wholesale hotline episode. This is the first one, and so I've got so many questions. RJ, I'm going to keep going. Relationships are huge, right? And you are closing deals virtually. And so how do you solidify relationships in a virtual market with your boots on the ground and the people that are your assistants out there? What's the process, and do you ever make visits? Like, is that become a part of your cost, is physically having to visit these virtual markets so that people can see you, touch your beard, and you know, be friendly with you so they know who's family and what it's all about?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely go to markets when we start either acquiring properties ourselves and not just wholesaling. We're for sure there. And it has become an expense that we do have to take into consideration, you know. That's definitely Elijah and Cassie's job to kind of slow down the cookie monster and be like, hey, boss, like, you know, we only have so much time and resources to be flying all around the country. But as far as just like virtual wholesaling and building those relationships, a lot of it comes from let's take one step at a time and really prove to each other that we like the relationship first, right? How do we communicate? So I'm always willing to do like one deal with somebody, because if I'm in control of the contract at any point in time, I can kind of control that moving forward, right? I will trust someone with the disposition side of things. And if we don't like it, then we'll just have that transparent conversation. One of the things that I think is very important is setting expectations up front about, hey, I don't really know you. This is our first time doing a deal. So, for example, if I were going to trust Pace to dispo a deal for me, then I would say, hey, Pace, I can give you 5 days to dispo this deal, but if you haven't dispoed it by Friday at 5 p.m., I'm going to have to move on, and I'm going to have to take control of this, as well as I want to know, hey, you've gone to take pictures for me. Let me see the pictures. Let me understand your marketing efforts as far as the dispositions, and just kind of really building that relationship and setting those expectations up front. To be fully honest with you, that is one of Cassie's strengths. That's one of the things that she does the best. I'm the guy that kind of locates the partner, and then I say, hey, I got this guy named Pace in Phoenix, and he's going to dispo it for Pace. Meet Cassie. And then Cassie talks to Pace for like an hour right over there, and I'm moving on and finding the next Pace in the next market. So she does a really good job of setting those expectations and building that relationship, those boots on the ground.
Love it. Are there any two markets too small for the Cookie Monster?
So, it's funny because yes, there are. Have we been able to dispo deals in really rural areas? Absolutely. A lot of times, though, it's just not worth it, right? Like the spread is just not worth the effort that it's going to take. At the end of the day, you can always go pull the cash buyers list on Batch, or if you're not a Batch user, like PropStream or something like that, pull the list, skip trace it, SMS, cold call, use a Batch leads, use a Batch dialer. The same thing that we do for acquisitions, you can do on dispositions. And that's how we do a lot of these virtual markets.
Yeah.
When we have to do the dispositions ourselves. So one of the things that we'll look at is if like someone on here said, hey, RJ, I have a deal in Utah and I really want to do a deal in Utah, right? I need to do this. If it's in the middle of a desert in Utah and I go on to Batch and I pull the cash buyers list and there's 3 cash buyers, I'm probably going to say, I'm not the person that can help you with this. And we're going to move on because it's just not going to be worth our efforts to try to move that. It's just going to be too difficult.
Finally, RJ, those are great answers. One of the last questions that my squad from Astro had was, how are you working in markets where new licensing requirements or laws have changed with respect to wholesaling?
Yeah, so that was interesting. Like, for example, in Illinois, you have the ability to wholesale one deal without having your license, your broker's license. And in the case of, we actually ran into this situation where after we got a deal in Illinois, then we had more leads roll in from the marketing. That was definitely trying to find people to squat up with, right? Reaching out to someone saying, hey, I've got this lead, but we're not prepared for this. Like, we're not like legally able to do this to my knowledge. And I'm not really going to take the time and effort to try to combat that or figure out if that's true or not. I'm just going to reach out to someone that is licensed that I know there through masterminds and networking events that I've been to and say, hey, why don't I close the deal? We'll contract it as your company. Let us close it. And then we'll just split the proceeds on the back end.
Dope.
By the way, RJ, can you mention your podcast, please?
Yes, it's the Titanium Vault. And if you just search RJ Bates, you'll see like an angry guy screaming, and that's me. And you'll find all about it, YouTube and Spotify, iTunes, all the good stuff.
RJ, how do you determine which markets to focus on?
So that's funny because, prior to me doing the 50-day challenge, there were specific markets that we were focused on, like DFW, Phoenix, Anchorage, Honolulu, Tulsa, places like that. We were pretty laser focused on. One of the things that I became extremely frustrated on was because we were moving so fast within our marketing efforts, there was always this conversation of more data. We need more data. And when I finally broke the barriers of what is our market, and I just said our market is the United States, we don't ever have that issue anymore of data. And so as far as determining which markets to focus on, diving into that a little bit deeper as to, let's say I decide I want to go to Michigan, and then I decide what city I'm going to market inside of Michigan. Because when we pull our data, I saw this question earlier, am I doing counties, cities, zip code? I'm doing cities, okay? That is the initial filter that we're putting in on our list that we're pulling. So I'm going to base it off of population because I want as much data as possible. I don't believe in such things as that's a bad zip code. There's always cash buyers for every zip code. So I'm not eliminating any of those zip codes except for my filters that I'm putting on. So the filters that I'm going to put on are the price points that I want to be in. So I'm going to identify what is the sweet spot of ARV in the market. Okay. And some of that is like RJ just taking an educated guess. Okay. So let's say Detroit, Michigan. I know that there are houses that we could go pick up in Detroit, Michigan right now for $2,000 to $3,000. That's probably not the house that we want though, because every investor that I'm going to try to dispo that to is going to laugh at me and say, yeah, bro, I could go pick up 37 of those today. I don't need to buy it from you for $7,000 to $10,000. So I'm going to eliminate those properties in my filters by saying the ARV that I want is going to be 75,000 to 200,000 in Detroit, Michigan. I now know that I'm going to get the sweet spot there, or at least my initial feeling of the sweet spot in that market, and that eliminates those bad zip codes. And so population size, also just by searching in Batch, it's going to show you the amount of vacant properties, tax defaults, liens, expired listings. That's going to also show us, hey, this is a good place where there's a lot of motivation that we can get some good, solid, low-hanging fruit leads in this market.
RJ, what's your opinion on working with on-market deals for wholesaling?
Our whole first year of wholesaling was nothing but on-market MLS deals. And we made $750,000 in assignment fees on those. Now, that was a different time, a different era as wholesaling goes. Right now, with the opportunity that is in front of us with the tools that are available, the fact that for a very small amount of investment, I can text, cold call, drop RVMs, direct mail. It's really not a whole lot for just to have those systems. The biggest expense is the data and that opportunity to go out and get off-market deals and be direct to seller. Our job as a wholesaler is twofold. It's to solve sellers' problems, and it's to bring good deals to our cash buyers. That's our responsibility as a wholesaler, and it's more difficult to do that on market than it is off market. And our job is to ultimately is to be really good marketing companies. So you just have to break out of that mindset and get into direct to seller marketing.
So RJ, what happens if the cash buyer, you're talking about cash buyers and your job and your responsibility to them. What happens if they physically want to see the property and you're not in the area to show it? Actually, I have a better question. If you have a cash buyer, let's say that your Dropbox folder has 100 photos in it, 2 video walkthroughs of the property, and you have a cash buyer that wants to go to the property physically, is your gut reaction, oh, this person's trying to co-wholesale the property?
No, not at all. If they want to go see the property, if it's vacant, then we've already put a lockbox on it, and we absolutely expect them to go see it and walk through it. And then we're going to follow up with them, and then we're going to assign them the deal. If it's tenant occupied, then we're going to have a schedule of when the tenant will allow us to show the property, and we'll either allow the tenant to show it to them if we don't have boots on the ground, or if we do have boots on the ground, then we'll meet them there and we'll show them the property. But I would say 80% of our properties that we dispo, it requires some form of showing. So I expect that.
I agree. What is your favorite niche list?
That's funny. Let's have an RJ moment. All right. I don't like niche lists because I want to own all the data. I want to talk to them all. You know what I'm saying? Like, sifting out data doesn't make sense to me. Because when we did the 50-day challenge, what I learned is we think we know why we're contracting deals. We think because they showed up on a list and it had a tag inside batch that said they were tax default and vacant, that's why they sold us the house. But it's not the case. They will tell you the story, and it will not ever show up on a list or public records or anything like that. And more often than not, what I noticed is we were locking up deals that the motivation truly never would have showed up. And if I had niched this down, I would have missed out on the $20,000 or $30,000 assignment fee that we got on the deal. So for me, when I go in, I will niche it down a little bit, but I really want as much as I possibly can, as long as there's a single tag of motivation. Something is vacant, tax delinquent, pre-foreclosure, inherited, something. I want all of those, and I don't really want to niche it down any more than that. Now, for this person that's asking, there might be budget constraints, and that's why they're asking.
Yep.
If you had to ask me, hey, RJ, I want to just really niche something down, and I only have like $100, then my favorite is going to be out-of-state, absentee, vacant, tax delinquent. That's the gold, but that's the gold for everybody. So good luck.
Awesome. Well, you could pull that. You could pull that list nationwide. I mean, you could literally pull that list in 3 minutes with batch leads.
Right.
The whole thing, 3 minutes, maybe 30 seconds. Yeah.
RJ, how are you determining your max allowable offer in all these markets? Is that a similar process wherever you go, or is that something where you stop every little market and you go, okay, we got to have a different formula in this market?
I'm so glad you asked me this question, because we just had our second boot camp at our office this past weekend. Okay. And I had a full-on like 3-hour Pace Morby whiteboard session where I was ranting and raving about this right here. Okay.
Hey, RJ, it's 24 hours if it's a Pace Morby whiteboard thing.
I know, right?
3 hours is the warm up.
Right. So you have to understand a couple of things when you're determining your offer. And the first thing is, what is the exit strategy for the property? Okay, you have to understand that first. Hopefully it's a flip, okay, because if it's a flip, that gives you pretty straightforward. If it's past a flip, if it's a rental, if it's an owner finance, if it's a wholesale, if you're selling to an iBuyer, if it's an Airbnb, there's more sophisticated ways of analyzing that deal, and it's gonna you have to become educated in that. Okay, so we're just gonna talk about a flip. I mean, obviously, we're going to run our comps. Jamil's doing a great job with his Straight Outta Compton show. I mean, just follow that. I mean, that pretty much shows you exactly how to comp a property. People are going to laugh at me about this, but when it comes to flip, 70% of ARV minus repairs still works. Maybe not Phoenix, Arizona, but 90% of the country, it's still working. And more often than not, what I'm allowing the seller to do is tell me where they want to be anyways, because we are finding the motivated sellers. And a lot of times we're also hitting that low hanging fruit, right? That's one of our biggest things is like, hey, we don't need to go get every seller in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We just need to get like, if I go pull a list in Milwaukee right now, and I'm using that because we literally just did this as an example here. If I pull that list in Milwaukee and I get, let's say 3,000 to 4,000 records, my goal is to get somewhere between 2 to 3 contracts within our initial flow. And then once I come back and I touch it again, is to get 1 to 2 more contracts through that data. And that's kind of our ideal situation right there. And so overall, I hope that answered the question as best as I possibly could, because that is, like I said, I went on a 3-hour rant about that.
RJ, when you've texted through a list, how soon until you hit them up again? And then I have another follow-up question that actually is not a real follow-up question. It's just a burning question in my heart.
Yeah. So on this question right here specifically, this is going to depend upon the results of the initial campaign, okay? And hopefully and I'm answering from my standpoint, okay? Because we are in so many different markets that it allows me the opportunity to say, that campaign did not perform well in Denver, Colorado, I don't want to go hit it a second time for a while. If it performs well, or if it performs on average, or if this is your home market and you need to continually hit it, then I would say there needs to be somewhere between a 2 to 4 week gap where you're waiting to hit it again, and then you're going to do the same thing before you cold call.
Cool.
Okay, RJ, this is my favorite question of the year to ask all my friends. If you had to start with nothing, and I flew you into a random city, you had to sleep on a park bench your first night because you had no money and you landed at 9 o'clock at night. You wake up the next day, no money in your pocket. All you have is a Motorola Razr cell phone or maybe a Nokia phone.
Why is it the shitty phone? That's like, anyways.
Yeah, just so you don't have all the data, you don't have all the stuff.
Yeah, you
available,
can't you can't batch driven. You know,
Right.
you can't go borrow money from someone for batch driven. You can't even use it. All right, I'm
Right.
following.
So what are your thoughts? What would you do to go get a deal as fast as possible? What resources? How would you go about?
You know what the best closers do, Pace? They ask questions to a really good question. So
Oh, I love it.
do you want to just do this together?
Oh yeah, I'd love to do it. I'm already planning on doing
See
it.
who makes more money?
Oh my gosh, yes, please.
Because I'm all about competition.
I would
sounds super
love
fun.
to do that.
I'm even going to tell you what I'm going to do. I would just go door knocking.
You would do
That's all I
door
got.
knocking. Would you go to like a title company and get a list beforehand, or would you just start door knocking?
No.
Just the
No.
ugliest ass
Hey,
houses.
listen, a title company does not move me closer to my goal. I have no money. How am I going to eat? We have no money to eat, Pace. This is my diet. I'm going to look like you by the time I'm done with this.
Also, when you door knock, you can get invited in for lunch.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So you
Hey,
can
and
do birds.
you thought my sob story on the Closers Olympics was good. Watch how aggressive I'll be on those closes. I'm going to be like, it's freaking 120 here in Phoenix. Like, you got to let me in, ma'am. I need water, okay? And I need your house, too. I know I don't have any money, but I'm going to figure it out.
I think door knocking is probably where 60 to not door knocking specifically, but door knocking and driving for dollars is probably where 60 to 70% of all wholesalers get their first deal, right?
Yeah.
Look, Cassie and I, when we first started as entrepreneurs, that's how we got started. Before we created an LLC, we didn't have money. So we went door knocking and we sold roofs, okay? So we were going around and we were knocking on doors and saying, can we give you an estimate on your roof? And then coming down and closing them right there on their doorsteps and signing contracts. That would be a dream scenario for me because I wouldn't have to worry about anything else going on in here. Like if you have no money right now, you need to understand there's a lot more issues once you get to this level that we're not even talking about. We're talking about the easy
again, I
stuff
couldn't
that
agree anymore. I think
miss-
it
I
truly
miss
is
that.
easier.
Right. I mean, I wish I could. I want to do that. Drop me in a city. Drop me and Pace in a random city. We just take a poll. We run a poll in your group. They pick the city, and we go there. You can't shave. No hotel. No nothing. I already have the beard. I'm already going to look like the homeless guy. They're not going to believe you.
What I love about this question is every investor has a little bit different of an answer, right? So Jamil and Brent, we asked it to them a couple months ago, and I just asked it to the Wolf of Wall Street. Actually, I was in his house a couple weeks ago, and I was like, if you had to start from scratch, what would you do? And he let me film that, and I'm going to put it on my YouTube video. Everybody has a different answer to this, right? Or even if it's door knocking, there's a little bit different flavor to it, right? And that's kind of the cool thing about real estate investing and wholesaling is that there are 1,000 ways to be successful. There's no 100% right answer. Now, even with you, RJ, like you guys have figured out things along the way in your business that you enjoy doing, or you like doing it this way, or it fits your style. And you keep diving deeper and deeper into that channel, right? It might be the lists. It might be the scripting you use. It might be the markets you like to, do fix and flips in, whatever. Guys, everybody that's listening, find somebody that's building their business the way you want to build your business and follow that person. The challenge is we all have a little bit different flavor here, right? Everybody's making a lot of money, but we all have a little bit different flavor here. So
let me see if I can show this. So these are our little bands, titanium.
Mm-hmm.
And then it says, create your own reality. This is the reality that I've created. This is not necessarily what's right for everybody else. Some people might not want to drop RBMs and direct mail and all that. Some people might not want to be nationwide. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. I respect people more than what we do, because in my opinion, you to some degree have become a better marketer and a better closer than what we have. We're taking a lot of easy, low-hanging fruit deals in comparison to people like you guys that are laser focused in your markets and still closing 20 to 30 deals a month in those markets. So I couldn't agree more with you, Pace.
Yeah, I like that. I think that, guys, you have to figure out what's good for your business. And then talking about resources, I spent 3 hours in my company today, which I rarely spend 3 hours in my company, but we had to adjust things inside of our company, not based on strategy or things we learned. We adjust things in our company today based on some of the employees and what they're willing to do and not do. I hate to say that, but that's true. Sometimes you go, man, I've got this employee that's really, really good at closing creative deals. He is not great at closing cash. And then I have guys, same thing. They're great at cash, but they just can't understand the creative side. So you adapt and you move around based on the resources that you have. Do you guys have anything that you are challenged with on that side, RJ, like based on maybe things you like to do or things that your partners like to do that you ultimately have to adjust your business around?
I'm going to have to apologize. I just found on StreamYard the comment side, and I totally
spaced out.
I literally just I have to get rid of this. Oh my god!
RJ has no idea. Like it's bananas, dude.
I was like, what is happening? Where are they at in this interview right now? I'm sorry. What was the question?
Oh yeah, we're like the question was, do you have to adapt things in your business based on maybe personnel that has better talents or lack of talents in certain areas?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm blessed with my two partners. It takes two of them to control me. They're amazing with their abilities that are completely different than mine. As you guys can probably tell with just this interview and getting to know me over the past several years, I'm very straight to the point, black and white. They are much more detail oriented. They want to slow down and really think things out. That helps us a lot as far as the systems and processes and how we actually do things, because we wouldn't have systems and processes if it was me. It would just be exactly what I do. Let's pull a list and we're going to call them. And then whatever chaos we create, we'll figure it out from there. So that's that level. And then as far as the team goes, yes. I mean, for example, I have an acquisitions guy that I absolutely love in my company. He is not comfortable on the phones, but he is a truly gifted individual. And so we have built his position around the fact that he doesn't have to get on the phones. He does a certain aspect of acquisitions for us, and then it's passed on to someone else. But the morale that he brings to the office, the atmosphere that he helps create here, and his personality and the benefit that he does bring to the team is important to us. And so we absolutely kind of built his role around his strengths and his weaknesses.
Thank you for saying that, because I look at even Jamil's company, right? Like he has some absolute shining stars, and I think what they've done a really good job at is moving people into certain positions. And then the second they move them into those positions, they just like skyrocket. Like Thomas is a really good example of that, Jamil. Like he was your right hand. You guys put him in the right spot, and then boom, he took off. And now here you go. He owns, how many markets is Thomas in now?
Yeah, I think he's active in 16 markets. He has 16 franchises actively moving right now.
Right, but that wouldn't have happened if you didn't put him in the right position. So that's a great point. You can't just go. You have to stop, and it's good that you have the right partners. Now, Brent doesn't have partners. Brent has really good team, But it's the same thing with Brent. When I look at Brent and all the people in all their positions, like Jeremy in his position. By the way, how's your new acquisition guy going, Brent? I know it's been months since you hired him.
Best ever. Yeah, Ryan. So Ryan and I grew up together. I mean, it's we played football together, the whole thing, and he's been phenomenal. I'll tell you what, if you want a little cheat code, find somebody that was a cop for like 12 years and throw him as acquisition manager. They are unbelievable. And
everybody's Googling how to find ex-cops right now.
For real. I'm telling you, man. I am telling you, absolutely incredible. But
right,
yeah, our average deal size went from $28,000 to $42,000 this year. We're at $42,000 a deal. And listen, that's partly the market. I get it. It's partly supply and demand. I get it. But it's a lot on negotiating, and it's a lot on getting in front of those property owners and getting the
what do you think him being an ex-cop does for his negotiating ability? Is it he puts up with less people's bullshit? What do you think it is?
He just knows how to diffuse everything and have really good, meaningful conversations and to really listen. Listen, you guys know, and RJ said it before, it's about listening and asking questions. Listening and asking questions. That's sales. Right? You come up with that. You get an objection, you answer the objection, and then you ask him a question. I mean, that's sales 101, but he's just naturally good at it from all the time. Or maybe he matured into it through all that time, but it was crazy. And maybe they will. Yeah, maybe Jeremy Davis is right. Maybe they are looking for some career changes.
Real quick, I'm going to take a wild guess here that Brent either played running back on offense or cornerback in defense.
No. Free safety, brother.
Okay, there you go.
There it is.
The biceps were still there in high
That's
school.
That's it. Had to have them. Yep.
Oh, man, I do love that. That's an interesting thing because I think also with being an ex-cop of 12 years, you said?
Yeah, Scottsdale, yeah.
I mean, there's not much that bothers him, right? People hanging up on him, people saying rude things to him, maybe having a tough day. Holy moly, that guy has been through. Talk about the crucible, RJ. This dude's been through the crucible.
The easiest job he's ever had, he told me.
Perspective, dude. Isn't that amazing? The perspective, right? Because you'll get somebody that's brand new. They've had a 9-to-5 job. They sit in a cubicle and they really, like most people have a 9-to-5 job. I'm sorry, I'm going to be offensive. They really only work about an hour to 2 hours a day. Let's be honest, okay? So they go from being in a cubicle and they want to become an entrepreneur, and then all of a sudden you're actually working 8 to 10 hours a day, right? And they say, this is so hard, this is so hard. But then you get a police officer is like, this is the easiest thing I've ever done.
Yeah. He makes 8 calls from the house. So we have a junior acquisition manager that warms up the leads until they're ready to sign. And then he goes in and just, gets it signed. And he makes 7 to 8 calls a day and goes on 2 to 3 appointments a day. And it's incredible. Yeah, he's doing a great job.
$42,000 assignments per deal.
Yep. That's our average in 2021.
Guys, and here's what's interesting about Brent, right? So Brent is very much a lifestyle guy. If you guys if anybody's brand new to the show, he's very much lifestyle. The guy takes 2 days off a week beyond Saturday and Sunday, right? I don't know.
I just don't come into the office, yeah.
He pops into the office for a couple hours, but spends a ton of time with his family. Brent makes great money. Like I remember going and spending a day with Brent a couple of years ago, and he wrote down on a whiteboard how much money he was making, and my freaking jaw hit my lap. And I was like, holy moly. So makes a lot of money. But what I love about it is it's not about quantity of deals for you, right? No. It's about making sure you get those deep deals. Whereas somebody like a Jamil or an RJ are like, you guys are wanting more frequent deals, right? RJ and Jamil?
Of course.
But again, going back to what I was talking about, that's where we determine what market we want to go into. We do have identified markets where it is volume markets where we need the volume. And then we also have markets that we identified that we go after the bigger ones like Brent's getting and Phoenix being one of them. We know that if we could get one there, that's going to be a larger assignment fee. And so that's how we.
Can you ring that bell for how much money you make, Brent? Yeah.
That sounded like an eagle, dude. Show us the eagle tattoo. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Come on.
Oh, dude, that's so good. I think it would be cool to have him come on as a guest. I don't know if you'd be open to it, but it'd be fun to talk to him about Actually, I'd love to understand a little bit more about your junior acquisition guy elevating to your senior acquisition guy and what that process looks like.
It's phenomenal. Any new leads come in, go to Jackie, lead manager. She makes sure that we've got at least enough of the pillars of pre-qual to get it to Chad. Chad warms them up till their timeline shortened and then gives it to Ryan. And Ryan goes and competes against everybody else out here. And he's like the handsomest dude alive. So
he's so hot, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. So he goes and he crushes it. So we'll get him on here. He'd love it.
Bro,
what are
that is cool.
Average assignment fees? Like I basically, from listening to you, RJ, you've identified two types of markets, right? There are those lower volume, higher spread areas. I call those high appreciation, high demand areas. And then there's low appreciation, low demand areas that I refer to. I think we're talking about the same type of markets. Yep. What would you say the average assignment fee would be in that low appreciation, low demand versus the average assignment fee in the high appreciation, high demand? And what do you prefer working in?
Great question.
So I love that question, because average assignment fee in the low appreciation markets is going to be like the $4,000 to $7,000 range, right? It's all about turning and burning, right? Yep. And then the problem with that market specifically, though, is you can lock something up because of your market ignorance, and you won't be able to dispo it, and it really hurts you on your actual profitability, because you have data that you're buying and your team members are working on it. So you have to be able to make sure you're actually turning and burning those. And then the higher markets, I'm looking at, those are the markets where we can at minimum make 20,000 upwards to however high we can go, right? We've had 6-figure assignment deals, but not on a regular basis. My favorite market is actually the third market that we've identified, which is the markets that I would say the Tulsa, Oklahomas, the Little Rock, Arkansas, the Cedar Rapids, Iowas, the ones where we are going to be in that $10,000 to $15,000 range. It's going to require a little bit more data, a little bit more work for us to get the deals. So the cost of acquisitions is going to be a little bit higher, but the dispositions is almost going to be right on point, where we're going to have a very low contract termination rate. And so we should be able to close almost everything there. And we almost have identified that we know we're going to make somewhere between $10,000 to $15,000. That's where, those are the markets that I really like to work in.
Are you in Boise, Idaho?
Bro, Boise, Idaho is disgusting.
Crazy.
It's disgusting. I don't, if you're doing good there, congratulations. I didn't know I could have any more respect for you than I already did. Anything west of me here in Texas is like on my hate list. I can't stand anything west of Texas.
Oh man, yeah, we're crushing it in Boise, bro. It's bananas over there.
But see, that's your business model, though. Like you are the guy that gets the buyers that are. That was one of the markets I struggled analyzing deals.
Got it.
Because the people, I don't understand how investors are making money there. Like
it's all buy and hold. It's
I was just gonna say I've got 2 students there accumulating tons of creative finance deals, tons of seller finance deals, especially right now. People are fearful of the the taxes being raised on cap gains, and tons of creative finance deals are being gobbled up. It's all buy and hold. People are seeing how Boise is just blowing up.
So here's a funny story specifically about Boise, and this could be like one of the this is me learning on the fly right here, right? This could be one of the downsides to our marketing flow, which is because we are nationwide and we see that low-hanging fruit in a Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I saw a massive opportunity. So we went there, we locked up 9, 10, 11 contracts. I go to Boise, Idaho, I got nothing. I then went to, I think it's Nampa, and then I can't remember, it was Idaho Falls is where I got my deal there, right?
I went to 4th grade there, man. That place is awesome.
And it was difficult, but that could have been a market that cold calling could have performed better than SMS, but because I didn't enjoy our SMS efforts there, we never even tried cold calling there.
That's because you guys do text, cold call, RBM, direct mail.
Text, call, RVM, mail.
Fatality.
Is that for the unlimited ammunition code? Is that what that is?
But that's why it never even made it to cold call, because I was like, there's no point in doing that. Now I have a bunch of data there. I have like the whole state. So we might, I might be calling y'all in a day or so saying, hey, dude, we went and cold called in Idaho. We got deals to dispo.
I'm your guy, bro. If any of you guys, anybody listening on the show right now, if you have deals in Boise or in Idaho in general, hit me up. Hit me up. I've got your buyer. They're paying all the monies for them. Get at me. RJ, so it's a mindset question here, because you obviously have a very beautiful mind. And for all of us, that have made success in life, we've had to cultivate that in order to achieve what we get. How many years have you in the business, and how have you overcome the obstacles and the frustrations of not seeing success instantaneously, or sometimes even in the timing that you're looking for it in?
Well, I mean, like, full transparency. I mean, this is a fun interview, and it's a lot about our success, but we have a lot of things that haven't gone well for us over the years. I mean, 2019 was a devastating year for us, from the aspect of I basically shut down wholesaling. I decided to literally become Cookie Monster and just buy everything, and I severely overwhelmed my entire team, my entire staff, and we failed. I mean, that's the bottom line. And we lost money, hundreds of millions of dollars on flips, failed portfolios. From the perspective of, hey, it's great to come on here and talk about closing deals and assigning deals, but there was a point in time where I was assigning $100,000 of deals in a month just to cover my nut on mortgages that I had on failed flips going on. So from a mindset perspective, I constantly had to remind myself that there was a point in time in 2009, 10, 11, and 12 where I was begging for the opportunity to do this, to figure out, how can I be an entrepreneur? How can I get to the perspective that I have issues that weren't, how am I going to afford my next Taco Bell meal? The ability to surround myself with partners that were always in the fight with me, and knowing that I had a responsibility to them, to my private money investors, my hard money lenders, my employees, my partners, my family. I've never struggled with having the drive to wake up and make something happen. That's just how I was. That's a God-given talent that I've had. Yep. But constantly reading and surrounding yourselves with people that have positive minds. And the moment that my life changed was not the moment that I learned how to do real estate investing. That's just when money started coming. The only reason why the money started coming is because I changed my mindset from being poor to being wealthy, and thinking about things different. I was still broke as a joke, but I would walk into rooms and tell myself, I'm the wealthiest person in this room. And the moment that I did that, everything started looking different. What you tell yourself on a minute by minute, second by second basis changes the results that you see in your life. And I can't preach that any more than the results that I've had in my life. I mean, even as an entrepreneur in 2014 and 2015, we were still struggling. But the moment that I said to myself, I'm wealthy, and I started attacking things like a wealthy person and thinking like from that perspective, everything changed for us.
Awesome.
I would like to ask a question to the whole group real quick. We've got about 10 minutes. By the way, we're hovering around 400 people the last like 30, 40 minutes. So guys, thank you for watching live. Really appreciate all of you. Do all the things, click all the subscribes, click all the likes, click all the reviews, do all the things, please. Here's a good question for all four of us, and I'll start it off real quick. How many years did you guys, did it take you guys to start your real estate businesses? Did you guys ever feel discouraged? I was a contractor doing fix and flips for other people multiple years before I had the belief, talking about mindset that RJ just talked about. I didn't believe I came from the right family background. I didn't believe I came from the right financial background. I thought, well, I'm a blue collar guy. I'm not a white collar guy. I'm going to keep working, and because my parents taught me to work hard, work hard, work hard. And finally, the universe smacked me in the face with an opportunity. And once I made the decision that I'm going to get into wholesale, Jamil helped me get my first deal. I made 25 grand 7 days into wholesaling. So all it was for me was mindset. Was like, I'm going to go do it, and I'm not going to do it an hour a day. I'm not going to do it 2 hours a day. I'm going to be like, this is what I'm doing. I was convicted. Like I had full conviction in that belief that I have to make this transition away from blue collar to white collar work, where I own my time and I own everything else. It took me 7 days. Did I ever feel discouraged? Dude, I just said today, I had 3 hours today that I was dealing with employee stuff. We all, every single day, deal with our own challenges, even at a level where we're making millions of, I don't think there's a person on the screen that's making less than 7 figures a year. Not 6 figures, 7 figures. And we still, I actually think there's more things to be discouraged over nowadays with all the moving parts and all the things you have to constantly solve than there are at the very beginning. Right. So it comes down to mindset and making a commitment to yourself. I'm going to do this and going after it. Brent, what about yourself? How did you get into this? How long did it take you to get your first deal? And do you ever feel discouraged?
Yeah, I was discouraged for 12 years. I was discouraged from 2004 to 2016, bro. You know, I started at 22 years old, fresh out of college, with just stars in my eyes and a big mouth, and did well and got over my skis as a young man. That's why I really encourage people to take the money home, take it home and buy assets. I was silly. I wanted to grow and have a huge team and be the guy and be on stages and that little local like real estate meetups or groups or brokerage and stuff like that. It was very small. It was very, just all ego. And then finally, after getting slapped with a huge judgment for almost $1 million, it turned out to be $1 million after they resettled the judgment. It melted my ego. I was able to just look at the work and what really made a difference, and I was able to just go after it, be super proactive and not wait around and not try to hire people to fix where I lacked or anything like that. I just went after it. I couldn't afford to hire anybody. So I just developed the skills myself. And just like RJ, I started out door knocking. Me and a group of 3 other people knocked 15,000 doors. That's how I got my first 3 deals, which I made nothing on because I thought I was a real estate agent and only charged my investor 3%. He then assigned it for $92,000 over that. Then on my fourth deal, I made $42,000 and my life changed. And that was late 2015. And in late 2015, I started listening to the Wholesaling Inc. podcast. I heard this guy, Tom Kroll, and he had so much life and so much enthusiasm, and he had barely been in it, maybe a year or two. I had forgotten more real estate terminology and experience than he had, in those 2 years, and he was loving it and loving life. And so I joined the program for the sole reason of meeting him, and that changed my life. So for 12 years it was difficult, but that's why I preach so much. Make the money, keep it yourself, stay humble, like keep it in and do something special with it, and then you'll look up 12 years later and feel really, really, really good. So that's my encouragement.
RJ, what about you, man? How long did it take for you to get into the business, and do you ever feel discouraged?
Yeah, sorry about my camera shaking right now. We have a restaurant underneath our office here, and apparently they just did something underneath me, and there's nothing. So we're just going to rock and roll right now.
I love it. Let's shake it up.
Yeah. So we started 2014 in real estate investing. We did one deal. We made $7,000. Cassie and I were running a contracting company very similar to Pace. We were a remodeling company working for investors. That's how we found out about wholesaling. I told Cassie, I'm going to leave you to run the contracting business because I'm going to go figure out how to do this real estate wholesaling thing. And we basically just chewed up all of the money that we had accumulated in our bank account, which wasn't much, but I mean, at the time, I mean, it was probably $10,000-$20,000. And for me to go get a deal, and I found a deal on the MLS in Keller, Texas, and with the earnest money of $1,000 and the option fee here in Texas, we have option fees that we have to pay, being $100. That $1,100 took us down to $11 in our bank account, and that was for my entire family, her business to run off of everything until the deal closed. And it was that moment where Cassie and I had to sit down and say, are we doing this or are we not doing this? And I begged her to trust me that I could make this happen. And from that moment forward, we've never looked back. Have we had some huge issues? Absolutely. I mean, to Pace's point, I was just facing foreclosure on a flip 2 months ago. Not because I wasn't paying, but because it didn't sell before the hard money loan came to term, and the lender didn't want to extend. So he's like, I'm going to foreclose on you. So I, for the first time in my life, got served a foreclosures notice. And I'm calling the lender and I'm like, dude, I don't know if you know this or not, but like, I cannot have this happen to me. Like my whole life is built around my name. Like Titanium, like Jamil said, you go look up Titanium anywhere in the country, you're going to see that I'm like, this is unbelievable. I can't do this. Of course, we would have refinanced and all that, but it was still the conversation of, I can't believe you would even do this to me. There are tons of issues that go on like this on a regular basis. And for me, I look back at situations in my prior life before doing this and realizing how much worse it was back then, realizing how blessed I am to even have a conversation with a hard money lender and say with utter confidence, I can place one phone call and immediately have that paid off within 30 seconds. It's amazing where we are today, and that just makes me feel so much better about where we are. And it's all because we just put our nose down and said, we're going to make something better out of ourselves through this means of wholesaling real estate. And that's where here we are 7 years later. I'm on a freaking podcast with Pace and Brent and Jamil. I mean, this is unbelievable. It changed my life.
We were just thinking the same thing about you, bro.
Thank you, guys.
Jamil, I know how you got your first deal. How long did it take for you? And I know what you were going through at the time. You know, we want to give a couple minute snapshot. And do you ever deal with discouragement?
All the time. I mean, for those of you who don't know, I got my first deal walking for dollars. Essentially walking my dog, called a for rent sign, and locked up a deal. I'd never heard of wholesaling before. I was in another country. This is in Canada, and I cold called lawyers to figure out how the paperwork process could work, because I had a buyer. I had somebody who was looking for that kind of property, and I connected the dots. This is back in 2002. Connected the dots and did my first deal. I truly thought I invented wholesaling. Right. This is where I am in my brain. Right. Obviously I didn't. This was happening here for decades and eons, whatever. But in my mind, I thought I invented it. And then, I made millions of dollars and I lost millions of dollars. And because of my ego, like, Brent was talking about, I wanted to be the guy. I wanted to be the developer. I wanted to be the one doing the things, doing all the things, as Pace had said earlier as well. And that led to my, they say pride comes before the fall, right? And that's exactly where I was. I took a big fall, and I didn't only fall myself, but I brought my entire family down with me. So they took away my home, they took away my vehicles, and they came from my parents' home and their vehicle. And we were all homeless. And had to go around asking family to help us out. It was a very tough situation. Now, I look back at those times because the days that I had my father, my mother, my sister, her husband, our 150-pound dog, my cat, myself, and my niece, all living in a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment, were some of the best days of my life.
Sure.
I got to eat my mom's cooking. I got to listen to the fun bickering my parents can do in a loving way. I got to spend time with my growing niece. I got to hang out with my 2 pets that are both deceased. I got to hang out with my best friend and sister. I got to connect with her now ex-husband, brother-in-law. I just got to be there. I got to be there and be present for my family and see that. And that was amazing. And, you know, you don't know how many years everyone is going to be around. I don't know. You know, those days are some of the sweetest days I've had in my life. But in addition to that, I learned the value of being there for your family and what it means to be a family, and the fact that everybody stuck together and nobody pointed fingers and no one blamed me. Nobody blamed me for having taken us all down. They just loved me. They loved me through it, and it taught me about unconditional love and what that looks like. And it doesn't matter what your kid does or what your family does that hurts you, you love them. You love them, and it's all about your perspective. It's all about how you view life and your family and what you're willing to do for them. And I learned that. I learned that lesson, what families should be willing to do for each other. And now, the second time around, I can look at things in a much deeper way, and I see how important relationships are, how important friendships are, and how important your integrity is. And like RJ said, your name is everything. Your reputation, it will always precede you. For me, this is one of the greatest joys of my life, to be able to have built a big company that serves the community of wholesalers out there and helping them with their business, but to be able to give our time and knowledge to people who are wanting to learn with 3 fine gentlemen like yourselves tonight. And do things get discouraging? Of course, things can get discouraging. You know, I've lost a best friend in this business. A very good friend who essentially betrayed me for money, right? You get to see things, you get to understand what a large company can bring in stress versus a small company, and what that means. You start to learn the difference between gross and net. You also have to share decision making with other people, you know, and not everyone is always going to see eye to eye. And you have to learn how to deal with stuff like that. And there's discouragement every day. But with that discouragement comes the encouragement of what RJ was saying is, I get to.
Mm-hmm.
I get to do these amazing, beautiful things in my life now. And without this amazing, fantastic niche of wholesale real estate, none of it would be possible. So for anybody feeling any discouragement, I say to you, fuck it. You have the most powerful thing in you, and that is your spirit, your soul. You are so special. You are so damn special. And I'm talking to you. The person who's listening to this right now, I'm talking to you. You are so damn special. You can do anything you want in your life. There are no limits. All you have to do is take a step. Take a step. Take a step.
Hey, Jamil, my partner Elijah says something all the time that every time he says it, it gives me chills. He says, what's scary is when you've made it and you're at the top, because you can lose everything then. But if you're at the bottom, you should have no fear whatsoever, because you've got nothing to lose at that point in time. So for these people that are talking about, I'm looking for my first deal, or I'm discouraged because I haven't gotten my deal, keep going.
Keep going.
You've got nothing to lose. Nothing at all. I mean, listen to all of our first deals. Mine was MLS. Jamil's Walking for Dollars. Pace. How did you get your deal? It was
direct mail.
Direct mail. I mean, yeah, all these different stories. There's not a right or wrong way to do it. It's eventually going to happen. Just keep going, and it once it happens, and you start clicking within this business, it is life changing. And I love seeing people win over and over and over again. And that's what I love about you guys so much, because y'all students are so outspoken about the success that they have from you guys. I'm blown away every time I see someone ask about any of y'all's mentorships. I aspire to be just like you guys, because I see literally hundreds of comments on the post where people ask about astro flipping or TTP or sub 2. And there's hundreds of people on there that say, these guys changed my life with wholesaling and what they taught me. So thank you guys for having me on tonight. And
RJ, thank you, RJ.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. I want to invite you to do something with me. So this was a great show. I think a bunch of people have already said that this is going to go down as a classic show. Jamil, thank you for that. And Brent, before I let you take us home, I want to ask RJ. RJ, you know that this is everything we're doing is building community, right? Like even us all hanging out as brothers and sisters. It's always fun to see you and Cassie. It's always fun. And I got to meet your partner, actually Aaron Bevan's event. And I had so much fun talking to him. Everything comes down to building community. And I feel like the old gurus of the past, the old mentors of the past failed to really build a cohesive community. Okay. So although we all own our own businesses, we all compete over the same deals, we all are teaching our own ways of doing things, it doesn't mean we can't build a community. And that's what we're trying to do here, right? We're trying to bring everybody together. Now, a couple of weeks ago, my student base started doing this thing called a role-playing tournament where they role play and one person acts as a seller, one person acts as the buyer. And it's a lot of fun. It helps people get out of their fear state, right? Because you'll get some students that are like, I know you gave me a script. I know you told me to read this book, but I just have this deathly fear to talk outwardly, right? So the role playing is like a warm up to getting people out of their shell. Last week, we had Brent Daniels, Steve Trang, Jamil Damji's community, and Brent and Steve as judges on this role-playing tournament. And we maxed out Zoom. We couldn't get another person on Zoom. It was completely maxed out. I would love to invite you to come and be an additional judge in this role-playing tournament in about a month. Would you be open to that?
Absolutely.
Yes. A warm-up for the Closers Olympics, RJ.
Right. I love it. That's incredible that you're doing that for people because I literally just had an accountability call with one of my students today, and he was so proud of himself because he connected with 488 people using Batch Dialer, and he was like, I'm finally getting out of my shell and realizing it doesn't matter if they say F you or I stumble or I stutter or I say the wrong thing. He said, the calls actually go better when I stumble and mess up because they laugh and we've immediately built rapport, right? We're humans. And so I would love to be able to do that for you.
What we're doing, guys, everybody that's paying attention, we bring in the TTP students. We bring in the Astro students. We bring in the Steve Trang Kung Fu fighters. That's what I call them. We bring all of them in. RJ, what do you call your students? What's your group called?
We are our program is called the Titanium Crucible. So we're
we'll bring in the Crucible runners into the community, right? And what we want to do is we want to do more role playing with other people's mentorships and really build that camaraderie. It was really interesting. So I have thousands of students across the country, and those students do deals with Astro, and I buy a lot of deals from TTPers, and so do my students, right? We all share responsibilities of getting deals and sharing them with each other. It's a lot of fun. And so our goal is to get other mentorship communities to come in and we do all these deals together. I want your community to be invited to that. And we're going to max out Zoom, of course, because it's going to be on Zoom. It's not a webinar. There's nothing to sell. We literally are just building community. And so we'll set that up. We're going to market that and let everybody come into that thing and just have a lot of fun. Man, people shed tears. It's amazing, life-changing stuff. So thank you for agreeing to do it. I'm going to hold you to it.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
Brent, you want to take us home, brother?
Yeah, that is it. Thank you guys so much. We had an incredible, all the comments today. If this is your first time, guys, go back, get into these channels, either one, Jamil's YouTube channel, my YouTube channel, or Pace's YouTube channel. Check that out. Also, if you're driving around, if you're walking the dog, if you're riding your bike, whatever, and you want to listen to these, check out the podcast on Spotify or on iTunes. All right, the podcast is there. Just go look for Wholesale Hotline. You can get all of them. All 62 episodes. It's like thousands of hours of just this, okay? So definitely check all that out. RJ, you are the best. I'm excited to do that role play contest with you in a month or so. Pace, phenomenal. Jamil, you crushed the end of that. Like, I've got notes galore here. I mean, it's just it's incredible. That was perfect. I loved it. And everybody out there, guys, squat up. You've got this. You've got that fire in your belly. You've got that hunger. You can absolutely do this. Don't let this just be entertainment for you. Let it be instruction. This is your action plan. Go out there, find ugly houses, have a conversation with the property owner, and sell that deal. That's your job for the next week. We'll see you back here next week. If you want to see us real quick, if you want to see us all on Wednesday, Pace does an incredible group kind of like this with creative finance on Wednesday mornings. I go right after him on my channel, and then Jamil is the caboose at the back, just kicking ass on Straight Outta Compton. So definitely check that out, and check out RJ all the time. RJ's going live, by the way, on your YouTube channel, right? On your YouTube channel all the time.
Yeah, so I go live on mine and Batch TV as well.
Awesome. On Batch TV, definitely check that out, guys. Batch TV on YouTube, check that out. Till next time, guys, we love you. See ya.
Love everybody. See you guys.
Or just say squat up.
So squat up and enjoy the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
1, 2, 3.
So squat up and enjoy the show.
What are you doing?
I didn't say nothing.
Why?
I don't know.
Okay.
So squat up.